to share with you first an introduction to our faculty and the courses that we offer, and also to talk about our special areas of interest as well. So we're going to do this first presentation so I'll speak first about the faculty and the college in general and some of the master's programs that we offer. And then I'll invite my colleague, Dr. Mary Leamy, to talk about the PhD programs and more the research focus opportunities. But please feel free to ask any questions, and both online. So please feel free to ask any questions as we present, and this can be a discussion between all of us. Thank you. So I would like to start to give just a general introduction about King's College as a whole, just some numbers, some figures that can give you a bit of a background. So King's College London is the fourth oldest university in England, established by King George IV in 1829. So it's got a long history and is currently ranked 7th in the UK. And it's also very ranked in the World University rankings, and our faculty, as you probably know, is ranked as #1 as well. So we're one of the top universities, ranked 7th in the UK for research excellence, and we've got 35,000 of students in it's a very large university, and 9 academic faculties. And one of those faculties is our faculty, the Faculty of Nursing, Midwifery and Palliative Care. And our aim as a faculty is to transform health and care so that people can live from the start to the end of their lives having better lives. And we do that through world-leading research and education across the healthcare spectrum. And that includes nursing, midwifery, palliative care, rehabilitation, applied, allied, and multidisciplinary healthcare. A little bit of a history of our faculty. So we are directly descendant from the very first School of Nursing that was created by Florence Nightingale in 1860. So we are also home to the first world-built palliative care research institute. And we are very proud of our history that has also led us to have global impact with engaging international partnerships and developing the world healthcare of the professions of the future. Recently, we've been ranked, we've been #2 for 6 years, but we're very proud to say that we've now been ranked as #1 faculty of nursing in the world, according to the most recent QS World Ranking, and also leading the UK Research and Excellence Framework. But that is only possible because we do have very rich global partnerships. And we work together with international partners and international students. So 20% of our master's students come from international background and 60% of our PGR students as well. And we have international education partnerships, and that's part of our reason to be here, because we want to continue to build those opportunities of international collaboration. And we are also a World Health Organization center, collaborating center for palliative care. That's in our Palliative Care Institute. So that just to give you a general flavor of our faculty. We have 4 educational departments in adult nursing, child nursing, mental health, and midwifery. And also 4 research divisions that I will let Mary to explain more in depth later on when she talks about the research in the faculty. But within education, at master's level, we have 11 different, what we call postgraduate and post-qualifying programs that nurses can do after they've qualified. Most of our master's programs have strong emphasis on research. So we have 2 focus on research programs, the MRes in clinical research or clinical research delivery. Then we have another program in advanced clinical practice, and I think in Thailand is the same. Nurses are now having taking on a much more advanced roles that maybe were previously physicians were doing things like prescribing, advanced assessment, advanced management of chronic conditions. This is now done by other healthcare professionals, and nurses are being trained around those skills and leading advanced practice. And that's one of the programs we have. We have another master's in clinical nursing, specific, more focused programs on diabetes care and management, palliative care, healthcare management, healthcare strategies for aging populations, and public health nursing. So these are some of the programs we offer, and we're very happy to answer any questions if you have on any of those particular programs. And in terms of research, I think I'm going to leave to you. Do you want to take on the next part of the presentation when we talk about research and PhD? Yeah, is that okay? This is just a map looking at the different collaboration with authors in different parts of the world that showcase how we are already doing research with different partners across the world. But I'll let Mary to do the next.
Okay, so it's lovely to be here, and it's really nice. I had the opportunity to come back. I wasn't expecting to be able to come back to Chiang Mai, so I'm absolutely delighted to be able to come back and talk to you today and to have discussions about how we can develop closer working relationships with your university. So we've had a very productive morning, and now I'd like to talk particularly about opportunities to do PhDs at King's College London. So I'm a senior lecturer in mental health recovery, and I'm also the associate dean for our postgraduate research program. So I'm going to just talk a little bit about what that looks like, and if you were interested, how you would apply to us. So as a faculty, our mission is to help develop healthcare leaders of the future. So particularly in all areas, Maria's introduced you to some of the courses that we do. But that's very much what we'd like to do, is to develop the healthcare leaders of the future around the world. So that's why we have the opportunity to travel and to meet you in different countries. And I will tell you how we do this. But we have noticed that it's very helpful to have PhD students that go back to their home countries, and it helps us to develop closer working relationships. We get to know you, and it works really well. I'm going to manage without notes so that we can move on. So I was talking about our faculty, and we're very proud that our research has impact. So one of the things to be able to be ranked very high in the UK is that, and the world, is that we have research which we know has a real world impact. So this, as part of our academic assessment, to be able to demonstrate that we're making a difference in the world, we have to demonstrate that not only do we publish our research, but that we actually have an impact, and they measure our impact over years. So 10, 15, 20 years it can take from having a piece of research to getting it well known and getting it implemented in the real world and into practice. So we are measured on how our research publications have impact in the world, which is really important. So we're a world-leading research, and our work impacts around healthcare systems and patients across the world. And here on the slide, you can see that we're measured for our last research exercise. They look at the proportion of work that we do, which has a world impact. So I won't explain too much about that because that's quite technical, but that's how we're regarded. In terms of our research, we try to have collaborations across the world, as we say. This slide, it just gives you a visual example of where we're publishing. So that means for all of those squares, we have co-authors that have links in different countries. So this just gives you an idea. So the big blue square is our UK-based co-authors, and the other slides just give you an idea of where else we're publishing in the world. And we have increasing numbers of publications that we have co-authors based in Thailand. So very pleased to be able to say that. We've done this already, haven't we? Sorry, we've got some duplication here. So what I'd like to talk to you about is our PhD programs. So we have a number of different types of programs depending on what the background of the PhD students are. So we have, for those that have a nursing qualification, we have a PhD in nursing. So all of our students, when they join us, are registered as a Master in Philosophy. And after a year, we do an examination, and once people pass the examination, so our upgrade examination, then they become registered PhD students. So we have programs for nurses, for midwives, for anyone that doesn't have a nurse or midwifery qualification. We encourage them to apply for a health studies research. So we have within our faculty, there's many, many different types of health professionals. So we have doctors, occupational therapists, social workers. So it's a really diverse faculty. So not only will our students come from many different backgrounds, but also our academic staff. So we have many, many different disciplines represented in our nursing faculty. We also have a palliative care PhD. So anybody that's based in the Cicely Saunders Institute enrolls on our palliative care and rehabilitation research PhD. And in addition, we have some international collaborations with the University in Hong Kong and also the National University of Singapore. So this is an opportunity for students to be based in different locations. So I now want to talk a little bit about the fact that we have a long tradition of supervising and PhD students. We have a wide range, as I said, we have many, many different supervisors with our faculty. It's very unusual when people apply to us that we can't find supervisors. So within the faculty, we have a wide variety of potential PhD supervisors. Within the university, we also have supervisory expertise. So sometimes when people apply to us in the nursing faculty, depending on their project, we can find supervisors in different parts of the university. So that gives us a wide variety of potential projects that we can supervise. So within our supervisory team, we make it up of at least 2 PhD supervisors, sometimes 3. So depending on the project, we would look to support maybe the methodology or particular clinical expertise. So having a combination of supervisors really works for us. We have a number of PhD scholarships, and we also, I think in the later slide, we've got one PhD scholarship that's funded by the faculty. So within our research, we organise our academic staff and our PhD students according to different research divisions. So that's the way we structure our faculty, is that we have teaching departments specialising in the different areas of nursing, but we also have research divisions, which is how we organise our faculty and how we support smaller groups of academics and PhD students to have something in common. So with this large faculty, we have smaller research divisions where we concentrate expertise. So we have a division which is called, it's now called the data, but it used to be called the Applied Technologies for Clinical Care, which is where we focus expertise in technology, in digital health, in artificial intelligence, and in critical care. So they have a number of different research designs that they specialize in. In our care of long-term conditions division, which is our largest division, we have expertise in these different conditions and areas of care. So older people's care, diabetes, mental health, and gastrointestinal, as well as other researchers. This is just to give an example. We also have a methodologies division where we have academic staff that have particular expertise in methodology. So we're very pleased that we have a world-leading expert in co-design and co-production, who Professor Glenn Roberts, who leads this research division. Many of our PhD students have projects which are using the experience-based co-design methodology. So the way that we encourage you to design your project, we can be flexible, but we have many different types of expertise. So depending on what you like to do, we can find somebody that has specific expertise in the methodology. For those projects where, yeah, within the faculty, we pretty much have the expertise, but if we don't, we then bring in, as I said, we bring in expertise outside of the university. The final research division is the palliative care research division, where it's physically located in a different part of London, and there have many professors and expertise in palliative care. So within the faculty, we sometimes have research supervisors that are based in different divisions, but you can see, just to give you a bit of flavor of what we do. So I will share these slides. I think what we've done, just because what we realize is that it could be quite challenging when you're trying to find a supervisor. On these slides, we've given a sense of the people within each research division. I'm going to skip over these because you can share. We can share these. I want to explain a little bit now about how you apply and how we support the applications when you apply. So I'm just going to skip over this. So the application process, unlike some PhDs, we have developed a process where we're encouraging applicants to apply informally to us. So the process that I would like to share with you is that you're much more likely to be successful if you've contacted the potential supervisors early, and we will work with you to develop your research proposal. So unlike some universities where they would allocate you a project, or that you apply and then you get considered, your application is assessed, what happens at King's is that we very much encourage you to be in contact with us informally. So I've got lots of email addresses. There's one specifically for nursing, midwifery, and health studies programs, and then there's a specific email for palliative care. But my message to you today is that we would like you to get in contact with us. If you can apply using these emails, or you can look at potential supervisors and apply direct to the PhD supervisors that are specialists in your area. But what we will do is we will work with you to develop your initial ideas. So depending on how far you've thought this through, and I know it's a process, so it takes a little while to think through and develop a competitive PhD research proposal. But we would encourage you to make initial inquiries with a short summary of your research, and then your potential supervisors, what we do once we get your CV and we get a summary of your research proposal, is we will circulate it to all of the faculty to identify potential supervisors. They will come forward if it's in their area of expertise. They will come forward, and we will put a supervisory team together. And once we identify potential supervisors, we need to make sure that we have somebody that has experience. So we will, part of our regulations, we have to have somebody that's at least supervised one PhD to completion. So it's a little bit of trial and error to come up with the best supervisory team for you. But once we have an idea of what you'd like, then your potential PhD supervisors work with you. within 3 or 6 months is about the normal time frame. So we would like to have that amount of time to work with you. So we would expect to be meeting you informally and to be giving you some feedback on your research proposal to get it to the position where we think it's a competitive application. So once we've worked with you for 3 to 6 months, the potential supervisor will tell you you're ready to apply now. So what I'm telling you is that we've already made our mind up. Before we interview you, we've already made our mind up whether we're going to. So if we say, please apply, your supervisors have already made the decision. So as long as you satisfy the formal requirements of the English language and that you have a good reference and that everything else looks fine, you make a formal application, we interview you. We have a member of our postgraduate research team, which I'll explain a little bit more about. But we will have a formal interview, but the interview has already taken place before you apply. So part of the way that we select is because we want to find out whether or not we will be able to work with you well. And by having opportunities to give you feedback on your proposal, what we're actually assessing is your ability to take feedback. Because it's a research intensive degree, a lot of your time is working out your ideas and developing your research. So it's a thesis PhD. It's not there's some taught elements of the course, but they're optional. So you're assessed on your thesis. So we're very much interested in your ability to develop your ideas based on our feedback. So part of the way we assess is that you're able to use feedback well, and that you can develop your research proposal based on our feedback. And then that's a pretty good test of your ability to study at PhD level, as that you've been able to listen carefully. We don't always expect you to do exactly what we say. That's part of the process. But we would like you to defend. If you didn't agree with our suggestions, then you explain, as you would do it when you're registered as a PhD student. We'd expect you to argue with us. But that's part of the process. And because I said we have 3 to 6 months where we're giving you this feedback, we have 3 opportunities to join the faculty each year. So the majority of our PhD students start in October. That's our biggest intake. But we also have students joining us in February and June. So there is flexibility about when you start. And as I say, we would formally interview you. And I think usually we have deadlines, but essentially we can be flexible about when you start, I think is the main message. So I said that we'd like to work with you with your proposed research. So this is the kind of way that we'd like you to set out your research. We'd like you to do an abstract, so a short description of your project, just to give us a bit of an overview. What we're really interested in is the way that you set out your aims and objectives and your research questions. So we would assess your planned research based on what you're planning to do. So for us, the aims and objectives are really important. So they're very clear, they're stated in non-technical language, and you have a clear research question. And if it's a kind of design that requires a hypothesis, that you set out what the primary hypothesis is. And then you have a section which is the essential background information. So it's relatively short. And one of the things that happens when people apply to us without the contact of with potential supervisors is that they have a very, very long literature review and then a short method section. So in terms of us assessing your application, we'd like it to be the other way around. So we want you to demonstrate in the background that you've understood the current state of knowledge. So you've made a strong argument for why your research is needed. That's the purpose of the background, is to say, I'm aware of the research that's in this area. I've identified a clear knowledge gap, and this is why my research addresses those knowledge gaps. So that's what we're looking for, is very logical. You're making the case for why you'll be able to make a unique contribution to knowledge. And as you may well know, that's almost the key of a PhD, is you're able to explain why your research is needed. So a very clear rationale, and also that you're able to show what the contribution of your knowledge, your research will make to the field. So this is why we're asking you to set out it in this way. And then your proposed plan of work, it needs to explain not only how your planned work will address the research aims and objectives, but it gives a clear description of the methods that you're using. So we would expect you to make a justification for why you're selecting particular methods. In the same way that you make a justification for the PhD as a whole, you make a justification for why you're using particular research methods. And we'd like you to do a Gantt chart or a timeline. And the timeline and the Gantt chart, either or is fine, but it's partly to be able to assess the feasibility of research. So we know that you don't have endless time. We want to encourage you to do something which is sufficiently ambitious to be able to make a contribution to the knowledge, but also that it's feasible within 3 or 4 years. So within King's, the majority of students take between 3 and 4 years. It used to be that you did a PhD in 3 years. It's increasingly that it's between 3 and 4 years. So no matter how long you have, so we do have students that can only be with us for 3 years, but we need to be able to assess that what you're planning to do is feasible. And then obviously give us some references. So what are we looking for when we assess? So essentially what we need to do is to make sure that your proposed research fits within the research themes of the faculty. So I will share these links. These are all active links that will take you to our website, where you can find out a little bit more about the kind of research that we do, to see whether or not there's anybody in the faculty that has expertise in your area. But as I say, there usually is. In reality, people have, sometimes we have a quota of how many PhD students we can have. If somebody's researching a really popular area, so we were talking this morning about somebody that specializes in AI, we get a lot of applications for people that would like to do research in artificial intelligence. And with a, she can only do as much as she can do. So sometimes if they're interested in your topic, they might say you might need to wait a little bit. But that's only for very, very popular topics. But we usually manage to find your supervisory team. So first of all, it has to, your research needs to fit in with our faculty, and that we've actually got somebody that we can identify. But then we're looking at the quality of the research proposal. So we look at the originality of the research questions. So sometimes people will propose a plan of work, but we know that there's already the fields, the questions don't need answering. That's why it's important to be able to justify what you're doing, which is unusual. So the kind of things that we have, the kind of applications we have from international students is sometimes it's taking an intervention which has been developed in a different country and culturally adapting it for, in this case, in Thailand. So it's quite common for us to see proposals where people have taken a piece of work and it wouldn't be appropriate to just try it out in Thailand. So the PhD is about working out how do you make it culturally acceptable and how do you adapt it for your structure of services. So how can you embed it in your system? So that's why we develop the applications based on what your area of interest is. So we're very, very keen, and I think that's why we're keen to make an impact in the world, is that we want to develop solutions for your particular countries and your particular services and your conditions that it's your priorities that we want to work with you on, which is why it takes a while for us to develop the proposal so it works And we recognise that it's a good investment in our time to work with you to develop your proposal. So we're also looking at whether it's a really clear research question, research aims and objectives. So sometimes we get research questions which we need to work with the applicant to make sure it's really focused. I've said about the rationale, it has to be within the scope of the PhD. So we have a structure of a kind of the way that we in King's, how we usually look at making sure that you satisfy all the requirements of King's, and that we have kind of typical structure of what a PhD would look like. So the first phase of the PhD is usually a literature review. So we would expect to be finding applications which explain what the literature review that you're going to do as part of the application. So my experience is that when we get research proposals that don't have a literature review as part of the PhD. So the literature review for us is the first phase of the PhD. And we would like you to explain what kind of literature review you'd like to do. So there are many different types of review you can do. We can help you with identifying the most appropriate review. So it depends how well the knowledge is developed in your particular area as to what the most appropriate research review is. So if you show us that you're really familiar with the area, that helps. And we will work with you to be very focused about what the research questions are within that review, so that we're selecting the type of review and the kind of topics within the review. So most commonly people do a systematic review, or they do a scoping review. So scoping review is where there's less known about your topic, and it's just a way of mapping out what's known. We also do an integrative review. So we have expertise in lots of different types of review. So if you're not sure about what the method is, that's the kind of conversation that you'd have with your potential supervisors, but at least have within the proposal some idea of some idea of the fact that you need to do a literature review, and if it needs developing, we can help you develop it. So that's the first bit, is that you have that first stage. The literature review is usually the first year of your PhD, and we have different styles of doing PhD. So we do for us, it's a traditional style of PhD where you write a chapter. So PhD by thesis. What's most common at King's now is that you do a thesis incorporating publications. So that benefits you and it benefits us, and it enables us to help you learn how to publish. So it used to be that you did a PhD by thesis and then you publish afterwards. The way that we like to work is to help you publish throughout your PhD. So that first literature review chapter is usually your first publication. And we will help to identify the most appropriate journal. We have a publication coach, which works very closely with all our PhD students. So not only do we have a supervisory team that helps you develop your academic research, but we also have a number of resources to help you with your writing. So the publication coach is somebody who was a handling director of the International Journal for Nursing Studies. So our top nursing journal, she works with us part-time. But for all my PhD students, I recommend that they work with the publication coach, because she helps you get to that tricky stage of getting it published, getting those final stages of getting it ready for publication, so you can help you select the journal. And then most importantly is help you respond to the feedback. So when you get your reviewers' comments back from your when it's been sent out for peer review, your supervisors will help, but it's also helpful to get somebody that's got experience of knowing what the journal is looking for and knowing how to tailor the response to the journal editors to make sure that you get it published. So, as I said, I think most of our students will have at least one publication from their PhD in a top tier journal, sometimes more. So depending on how you design your proposal and your research, you would have different phases of your research. You'd publish throughout your PhD. So the first year, as I said, would be the literature review. And then you would have, depending on how you've designed your proposal, it might be that you're developing a new intervention. So you might do some qualitative work to work out how to develop a new intervention, or it might be that you've got an intervention that you're trying to adapt. So the way that people design their PhDs could be different, but typically there's an element of developing a new intervention or adapting an intervention, or it might be adapting some measurement scales. So we have PhD students that take a standardized measurement tool and they would culturally adapt it, so validate it in the country. So some proposals are entirely about adapting a measurement tool. It may well be that it's appropriate to do some feasibility work. So sometimes it might be to do small scale pilot work, or we have students that do feasibility trials. So if somebody came to us with a proposal to do a large randomized controlled trial, we would probably say no. We have had students doing that, but that's too ambitious for a PhD. So sometimes the work that we do before, that process of applying, we would help you work out what is feasible for a PhD and what might be your next 5 to 10 years of work. So it may well be that some people have plans to do things which need to be scaled down, but it can be very helpful to know what you'd like to do. Hello, hello. Are we over time? Is that okay to carry on, or shall I close? I'll just finish the slide. Yeah. So we're just almost finished anyway. But the other factors that we're looking for is the English language. I know that can be very challenging. One of the things that we're beginning to introduce in our faculty is that we have support before you start with us. So this year we'll be introducing some pre-sessional English language courses to help you. It's just a 2-week, just when you start, to begin to get to know your fellow students and to begin to learn what's required. So these are all the criteria that we're looking for. But as I said, I think the main message is get in contact with us early and let us help you.